So I am Professor Cohn, and I am a two-time Rutgers alum, undergrad in New Brunswick, and got my master's in Newark. And after 30 plus years as a sales and marketing executive, I was thrilled to join the faculty last fall. So I'm really, really excited to be here. Before we get started, though, and before I introduce my wonderful panelists, the title of this panel is Seamless Omnichannel Retailing, right? And that could mean different things to different people depending on what product you're selling, what industry you're in, what your marketing objectives are. So I took the liberty of going on the World Wide Web. A lot of you do that, World Wide Web. And I looked up what omnichannel marketing means according to the World Wide Web. So it says it's a fully integrated approach to commerce, providing shoppers a unified experience across all channels and touch points, including web, brick and mortar, and in-app. The goal of omnichannel retailing is to provide customers with a convenient experience across all aspects of their retail journey. The reason I want to do that is because I want us to level set what we're talking about up here. But what's great is we have three panelists, all from different walks of career life, and they're going to share their insights around omnichannel retailing. So let me go down the line and introduce you to them. At the end here, we have Elisa. And Elisa is the Director of Digital Marketing at outdoor brand Eddie Bauer. How many of you know Eddie Bauer? Okay. He's friends with Chip, I heard. Eddie Bauer, she's an undergrad alum from Rutgers Business School. Before working at Eddie Bauer, Elisa had a variety of digital roles across a wide range of brands such as Wyndham Hotels, Sprint, and Party City, and started her career at one of the first interactive marketing strategy and services firms. She's also, here's an interesting tidbit, she is going to be a balloon handler in the upcoming Macy's Day Parade. So keep your eyes out for her by the Snoopy Eagle Scout balloon. She'll be the one flying up in the air holding the little thing there. Okay, next we have Andrea Moore. And Andrea is the Chief Digital Officer at consumer fragrance brand Nest, New York. Andrea has launched and built digital businesses for omnichannel retailers for over 20 years. You started when you were 10.
Yep.
That's great. And it's really, she's focused on scale and profitability in her career. Andrea graduated from the University of Delaware with her BSBA in marketing and her MBA. And Andrea just completed the New York City Marathon. Wow. I drove that course. I didn't run it. I drove it. Very nice job. And last but not least, we have Anthony Eagleton over here in the middle. Anthony is the Vice President of Market Performance Group, affectionately known as MPG. He is a proud Rutgers Business School undergraduate alum as well. We are glad to have him with us today based on his experience building MPG's e-commerce and omnichannel practice over the last 7 years. Here's a fun tidbit to share about Anthony. While at MPG, Anthony also led Rutgers Athletic strategic naming rights initiatives for SHI Stadium and Jersey Mike's Arena over the last few years. So that's great. Let's give all our panelists a hand. Okay, so now I'm going to stop talking. Well, I'll ask a question, then I'll stop talking. So the first question, we're talking about omnichannel retail marketing. Talk to me about how you've seen the strategy of omnichannel retail evolve in your careers and what's your primary focus today as it relates to this strategy. We'll start down at the end with Elisa.
Okay. Is this on?
Yes, it's on.
Well, when we discussed this topic, I actually went online and I was thinking to myself, when did this word omnichannel even really become a word? Because in marketing, we like to label things and time frames of when things happen. And, because I think we've all been doing this for a while and, you're sort of just doing things every day without a label. And, I just sort of think about, even if you just step back in time to probably where a lot of us sat in our careers, where, we sat in different departments and Omni really wasn't a thing, right? There was the sales team, there was the store team, and I was usually over on the web team, and we didn't really ever talk to each other, right? You had your physical store environment and your web team sort of like doing their own thing every day. So, it wasn't really brought together mostly from an organization perspective. That was primary the reason why it didn't happen. Also, there were technical things that weren't in place to allow it to happen. So it really wasn't until the rise of like online where, and it became more of a place where people were shopping that, it became an environment where it became important to the company. So I guess, I was trying to think back to when the real experiences started happening where we were driving people to a store, let's just say, which was considered omni, and websites would just say, "Hey, there's a store near you. You could go get this product at that store," and we'd have like a store locator, right? Going back way back in time. And then, there was a point in time where we would say to people, you could buy this product and we actually have it in the store. There's inventory. Like that was a big deal, right? So now you knew you could go to the store and we had inventory. Then there was a point in time where you could reserve it in the store, right? Like that. So that was another big thing for us to be able to do and tie the two channels together. And then, I would say that a lot of reserve in store probably, or buy online, pick up in store, was just maybe a high percentage of retailers probably didn't even have that before COVID. And it probably wasn't as meaningful, right? Because still store is driving most of the sales. But everything really did change with COVID. I know we've heard a lot of that during this conference today or summit. We were doing things that we never thought we would be doing, or we were doing those things when we didn't think we would be doing them, right? So when I was at Party City, we went from reserve, a product online, and we had just launched what we called BOPIS, buy online, pick up in store, and that was a big deal. There's a lot of coordination from different departments to make that happen. There's a lot, you have to work with the store team. You have to make sure that you have, the inventory. So I think that I would call Omni really a thing, maybe while the pandemic was happening, because that's really when it all started coming together. We were doing, I remember sitting at home, we closed the stores. No one could go to the warehouse because they weren't allowed in there to actually ship the products anymore. They were told that they had to go home and they couldn't come back. And we're sitting there with the website and our traffic is nosediving, like nobody's coming to buy. Certainly no one was having a party during COVID, right? Party City, that's all we sell. And then, someone said to us, I think we could make buy online, pick up in store. We could make it work with curbside pickup, but we're going to need like a little time, So we had people in IT working on our systems to try to even make it available for somebody to go to a store and be able to pick it up curbside, But I think it wasn't perfect, and it certainly had a lot of flaws. But we did what we needed to do to make it work, and it wasn't perfect. And probably the customer was just glad to be able to get what they were able to get from us, and they were a little bit more forgiving at that time. Like right now, no one's really forgiving, right? They expect you to get them what they want, when they want it, where they want it. But at that time, I think people were a little bit more forgiving. So, I'm just kind of going back in history and like watching how this evolved. I'm even amazed because, again, back in my day, just putting up a store locator was like, okay, we had a physical store, and now I'm literally alerting a store associate that someone is sitting in a parking spot for them to deliver the product to. So it's really, quite amazing how far we've come.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I think we could all relate to the acceleration of Omni during COVID, especially, right, for everybody. Anthony, what about you?
So I love the diversity of the panelists because, half of my career had nothing to do with CPG, which is where I play now, consumer packaged goods. I did sales, fundraising, business development, and then I got voluntold, which will happen in your career, to do something. And somehow I'm now on an e-commerce panelist or Omnichannel expert. So, and best thing about Omnichannel, you don't have to tuck in your shirts. This is like the first time I've tucked in a shirt in like ages. But I think the strategy is interesting. I think as I think of you guys who are listening to this, I think Omnichannel gives all of you opportunity, right? Because I'm seeing a lot of time in these rooms, the executives don't know what they're talking about, and they're really deferring to the generation that's like living and breathing this stuff in their personal life. But also then as you guys immerse yourselves in your career, you're getting more knowledgeable about things talked about in the prior panel. So I think it's evolved, forget about strategy for a second. I think it's evolved to help all of you because I don't know, I mean, this is a marketing summit, but how many non-marketers are in the room in terms of the business school? It's actually not many. I was marketing, so.
Did we invite it? I don't think we invited anyone.
Yeah, literally. But I think how it's evolved, it's not just a marketing thing. And so since it's all marketers, I think how do you collaborate, right? We all have these group projects and such. The collaboration is everything because when you think of the environment, I'll just use Walmart as an example because I think they're one of the furthest ahead in terms of omnichannel. They understand that, yes, they have to get traffic to their stores, right? They want all of us to go in there and buy stuff. But they understand that this generation, my generation, we don't want to go in the stores a lot of times. So how do we leverage their app? How do we leverage their website? And it's evolved so that when you're thinking about yourselves on the brand side, so if you go work for a brand or manufacturer, you have to work with supply chains, right? Make sure the inventory is in the right place at the right time. It doesn't just show up. Right? It doesn't. So supply chain, I think, is just as critical as ever. So as I think of you as marketers, a lot of marketers, with all due respect, they just want to stay in their lane. And you have to get out of it because now you have to work with supply chain. You have to work with sales. You have to understand their challenges as well as yours. And I think you gotta follow the consumer journey. You know, Mondelez talked about that earlier. So where do the shoppers want to shop? You got to be there. So a lot of my time is spent on Amazon, which personally, I don't consider Amazon an omnichannel retailer or platform, but the idea is you got to fish where the fish are. So if you're a marketer, you got to be where the fish are. So I think of how do you think of the structure? How do you think about your role? How do you think about your collaboration? Because if you could do those things like personally, you're going to be so far ahead of everybody else. And you know whether you want to be a digital marketer or not, get some experience with digital. It'll set you apart from everyone else, no matter what level you are, because they always want to hear from you. So when you get that seat at the table again, they're going to trust you more. So hopefully
Yeah, great. Okay. So Andrea, your thoughts?
So it's a really broad question. And the thing that's interesting to me is like all the things Elisa was talking about, that stuff's all really, really hard. Like you're dealing with a lot of systems, a lot of departments, budgets, timelines, and for you guys, younger generation, it's like electricity. Like that stuff's supposed to work. Like you're supposed to walk in the store and like pick that thing up and that's it. Like it's table stakes. And what's fascinating to me and what keeps me in the game is that this stuff changes all the time. And as a consumer and as a marketer and as a business leader, what's important is how you keep evolving and pivoting, right? So the pandemic was a crisis. So never let a crisis go to waste. It's a famous saying. Probably heard it, you know, post-pandemic especially. Party City, no parties, had to pivot. Like all these companies, they never really wanted to do curbside pickup. They had no choice. And you know what? All those IT people who said, we can't really figure this out, they got it done because there was no choice. It was evolve or die. It was get cash in the door, get sales happening or not. And the way they leveraged it was really this omni-channel infrastructure that had been built over time. All that stuff's a lot easier, you know, to do now than maybe it was even 5 or 10 years ago. But the consumer expectations is what keeps us moving, right? It keeps us excited because all of these things are table stakes and we're being compared to Amazon, whether we like it or not. We sell on Amazon. And I guess the last thing I would say about this is at the end of the day, all of this should be invisible, right, to the consumer. And what it comes back down to is product, right? So when someone buys my product, I want them to have a great experience no matter where they buy it, whether it's Sephora, whether it's Amazon, whether it's our own website, whether it's Bloomingdale's, a boutique store. Like I want them to buy from us. So how am I creating an experience, a brand story, et cetera, that resonates in any channel? And that may be a little bit different channel by channel.
Yeah, I think the common theme here is, you know, the world evolves from all of the panelists on all the, you know, in all the discussions. The world's evolving, right? And you have to evolve with it pretty quickly because the world moves quickly. You know, when you talk about technology, right? And I know I was in the corporate space during COVID, we at Samsung had to evolve pretty quickly, and we did learn that Walmart, to your point, was probably the most advanced, and you wouldn't think that intuitively in their technology for omni-channel. When you think about it in your business is about a technology that really accelerated to help serve omni-channel, is there something that comes to mind that helped unlock the potential of omni-channel during COVID or throughout the last 5 to 10 years that you could think of? If the answer is no, we'll move on.
Maybe I'll take a stab again.
Okay.
So I think of maybe Costco is a good example. So, for years, Costco, they wanted you to be a member. They wanted you to go to the store. Same theme of what I said. But they never thought they'd probably work with like an Instacart. So what does my wife do now? Yeah. She goes to Instacart to go to Costco. She doesn't want to run into 1,000 people in the store. So I think that's technology that was out there that was really brought to market with limited retailers part of the plan. And because of COVID, they were forced to make a solution happen. And I think sometimes we all get caught up into like, we have to build our own technology, proprietary technology, like fine. But sometimes the best technology is out there. So in our company, when we serve 500 plus brands in various different ways. Even I'm the guy that sells the stuff, right? And what I say to folks that when I'm selling, I've probably pitched 1,000 brands in the last 2 years. We are not a tech company, but we leverage the best industry technology. And you guys might have seen, like all the sponsored ads you see everywhere on Amazon and Walmart.com and wherever else you shop, right? There's technology behind the scenes that helps these retailers from an omni-channel lens get in front of you, right? So when we're pitching our service to help them show up on those ads, we're saying we're leveraging industry-leading technology because we didn't need to build it. It's the same thing for the retailers trying to get your attention, same thing for business-to-business providers trying to pitch other clients. The technology can be out in industry or you can build it. So that's where I would kind of have you guys think about that. You don't always have to solve internally. You might be able to find a great partner, a great agency to help take you to the next level faster. And I think speed wins. And don't forget that part.
Well, the other thing is, just think about all the providers like DoorDash and Uber Eats. They were out there, and all of a sudden, everybody needed someone to deliver stuff. So, we were calling all these people to try to help us get the product. Party City didn't have a delivery staff, right? So, they certainly benefited from COVID, and they were at the right place at the right time. I know that probably not as many people use DoorDash, maybe an Uber Eats the way they used to, right? Because now they can go to the store, but they definitely gained some new customers. So did other industries that were not even, people who were using online. But you bring up Instacart. There were, the older generation, I don't know, my parents are pretty savvy, but, their friends were using Instacart too. People started saying, oh, this is a good way to, to get it from wherever, because they certainly didn't want to go to the store at all, being older. So, but yeah, I would say that, these delivery services probably got a huge lift from that.
Yeah, thanks. And, we're talking a lot about technology that unearthed the omni-channel experience to the consumer. But behind the scenes in corporations, I assume your reporting analytics and your pace of managing the business had to accelerate along with that, right?
Yep. It's interesting because what this did offer, now at Eddie Bauer, a lot of work that we're doing is because we had customers shopping at the store and we had customers shopping online, and desktop or mobile. There's a lot of consumer insights that we're getting when we combine all that information together. Now that these barriers have broken down, we're really spending a lot of our investment to bring the customer data all together in one place. I don't know if you guys have heard of consumer data platforms or CDPs, but we have been putting all of our online, all of our store data, the rewards customers, people who have our credit card. We do have an Eddie Bauer credit card, all together in one place, so that we now have a view of our customer as one person. Before you were an online customer. This is the way the world, the way the world was. it even sounds strange to say it because that wasn't that long ago that things were so separated and now they're like more together than they ever were. But like I can see the customers across all the channels that they're buying. I know how much they're buying. I know what they're buying, when they're buying it, and I know what that value is of that customer, right? So now I understand, oh, X percentage of my customers spend this amount of money every year. I know where they're buying the product. We're doing that so that we can be, more personalized. And that's another aspect of omnichannel, right? We want to be able to deliver recommendations to people, and make the experience, not from a marketing perspective, say, hey, buy more, but if I know more about you, I'm actually providing you a benefit. Hey, we know that you bought this last year. We have it in another color. We may not have known that person was buying all these products and buying all these different colors or bought a lot of t-shirts unless I saw that full view, right? So a lot of what we're investing in is that. And, in the future, hopefully we can even be more predictive about it, right?
Yeah, that's going to be the next question.
Right.
But before we get into that, think about this for the students in the times when the dinosaurs roamed the earth and there was only retail stores. It was kind of easy to manage the business. You know where the product should go, right? You mentioned that before. Now you have buy online, pick up in store, right? BOPIS, which was mentioned. You have, buy online, ship to home. You have go into your store, have a salesperson help you, and then have them ship it to your house, right? So there's all these different channels and ways that consumers are shopping for products that marketers have to be prepared to manage. And manage with supply chain folks and finance folks, because there's different costs of those different ways of getting products to people and managing that business. So it got very complex. So let's skip to the future now. It is called the future of marketing, right? So how do you see, based on your experience in your industries, how do you see omnichannel evolving, right? It's evolved very quickly over the last few years. What kind of technologies, what kind of skill sets are students going to need to focus on? You mentioned digital. That's very broad, but specifically so that, they can be good marketers in an omni-channel world. Angie, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, I'll jump in.
Good, because I wanted to start with you, so that's perfect.
Perfect. I would, just building on what Elisa was saying, there is nothing more important than customer data. And I think if you really understand and learn about your customer, that's going to be your guiding principle. I think Tara mentioned it before. I think John mentioned it, all in different sorts of implementations. As it relates to omnichannel, I think we're going to continue to see a proliferation of channels. Here's a current example. So TikTok, heard of it? Know it? Yeah, I'm working on my dance now. But TikTok is really leaning into TikTok shops. Why? Why would they bother, right? Well, for one thing, the way people shop in China, which is where TikTok originated, is very, very heavily app-based. That's just how their culture was built. That's how their e-commerce businesses were built. In the US, what's happening is people are investing all this time and money creating TikTok content, and then they're linking out to Amazon to make a purchase. They're linking out to a Shopify-built website to make a purchase. TikTok's like, why can't I own some of this piece of the action, right? Like, why do they have to, and also, why are they leaving my ecosystem to go somewhere else? And so they're incentivizing brands to invest in TikTok, to build TikTok shops, to really make that piece happen. So I think you'll continue to see a proliferation of channels, which goes back to my original point, which is the product is going to continue to be the most important thing, because you can have all these systems that work. Like, I'll pick on one brand. I'll see if I notice anyone wearing any logos. The Gap. The Gap is actually incredible at omnichannel. Their technology, their systems, the process, etc. Product, it's kind of boring. Like, make something that people are excited about, and then you'll have the money to invest in all this technology, right? That is table stakes. So I think all of the technologies are going to come and go. Like John was saying, like, things come in waves. Careers also come in waves, by the way, but we'll talk more about that. But technologies come and go. Like, all the things you're investing money in right now, they may not be here in 5 or 10 years, but the product is what lasts in the consumer's mind.
Great. Anthony, the future. Look into your crystal ball, Anthony.
Yeah, I'm not good at that. No, but I think so. I put myself in your shoes first. I think you have to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself what success looks like. I ask that question all the time when I'm talking about omnichannel or e-commerce, because you can go into retail, you can go into brand manufacturer, you can go into the sales side or business to business services. And I feel like you might not be able to answer the question of what do I do digitally unless you know where you want to at least start your journey. I still don't know what I want to do. Do you think I knew I was going to do naming rights? I had no idea. It fell on my lap. But I mean that because then if you want to be on the retail side, right, then you know that, okay, I need some digital expertise, maybe understanding how to position, buy online, ship to home, whatever it's going to be tomorrow. So find your lane, at least where you want to start. It's not where you're going to be where you want to finish. I think from a tech side, when I think of marketers, there's so much tech in front of folks like these folks. They have to sift through the clutter like every day. I have to sell against it every day, and I still have no idea what's going on. And I think how do you, as you think of 3 to 5 years, you have to see where the puck is going as well as you can. TikTok Shop, I agree, is like probably the next thing or one of the next things. So you have to take a chance. You got to be able to invest. If you fail, that's fine. I would say folks like the people you've listened to, empower that failure. Now, it's calculated, but think about where you want to place your bets and with what technology, because you're not going to be able to do this manually anymore, and you're going to be expected to know what's out there. So to connect it to, I think, a question from maybe like 45 minutes ago, I think just be a storyteller, not just with your brand or your retailers. Be a storyteller with whatever you're pitching internally and externally, right? Forget about the brand story. I think this because this, and it will do this, the end. And have conviction, whatever it is. And technology can't do all of that, but I think technology will be part of the story, but land the plane, right?
Yeah, I just say yes, but it's more complex than just that. And if you want to take professional selling or sales management, I'm teaching it all semesters. Okay, we're back to Elisa now. Elisa.
I think the future, at least from where I sit, I do digital marketing, and, a lot of this for me is about the data behind of what you're gathering from people and knowing about them as they're shopping. So I would say that, to your point, from a career perspective, I do see there's going to be a lot of careers about how to synthesize all of this, whether it's human, and it's probably human and AI driven, but there's just so much information out there. I mean, we're putting all this information together and people are providing me with dashboards. I'm like, I don't even know what to look at this point. It's like, I'm getting so much information. I mean, I do know that, I do know what's important and what I want, but sometimes I don't even know what I could have access to. So I just think, for this industry specifically, the future will be, synthesizing data, and actioning on it. And also, I think that we need to be careful, especially, in my field. I'm using a lot of this data to talk to people through different channels. I mean, make no mistake, we take your data and we're finding you on social media and we're sending you specific messages because I know something about you, right? So one of the things that's going to come up in the future, I think, too, is about the use of data and protection of consumer data, because we're using your data and this is your data, right? So, there's been a lot of movement in that area in terms of how customer data is used. So, and the security of that data. So that's probably going to be an area that gets, challenged more. And then also in my area too, this data for me is very important because, I think you guys have heard about, the deprecation of third-party cookies. I want this data, TikTok wants me to sell on their site and they want to, and so does Meta and all, they want me to set up a shopping marketplace there. But then they have my data. They're taking the order. I want that customer. I want to know who they are. I want to know where they live. So, it gets complicated, but I think the future will be more about, the customer insights and the data you can get from it. I mean, really.
Yeah, I'm just glad, by the way, we got to say cookies on this panel as well.
Yeah,
So there.
right.
So there. So listen, I think what's great about everything you've heard today, and my panel is included, obviously, is marketing is a beautiful mix of data, analytics, and creativity. That's why I was a marketing major, because I love that. And data even more, and analytics more now, is so critical to reaching the right customer at the right place at the right time. So I think we'll take questions now. If there's any questions that we want to, right here.
Hi, my name's Skylar. I really appreciate your time. I'm basically here for this panel. I love it. So thank you for being here. You talked a lot about the fulfillment experience and the capabilities that you can do now with the omnichannel integrations you have. But what about the other parts of the sales journey? I mean, are your firms doing anything with like the learning experience or the post-sale customer service, that kind of thing? How has omnichannel integrations impacted those parts of the journey?
Did everybody hear Skylar, you said?
Yes.
Did everyone hear? I don't know that the mic was on. Okay, so he asked, I don't think it was on. He asked about the sales journey and post-purchase and everything else, right? Was that basically? Yeah. Okay, so I'll let the panelists respond.
I mean, I would say 100%. Like, post-purchase is very important. Like telling people your package is on the way, your package should be here today. How did you like it? Tell us about it. All of that is really important in terms of like maintaining the thread with that consumer experience, and creating that second purchase that we're going to then look at and measure and market again to you about. Yeah.
Actually, there's something hot the last month for some reason in terms of, again, someone selling our services. Think of like all the reviews you can leave everywhere. Marketers love those reviews, whether they're good or bad. Everyone always says feedback is a gift. So I think it's like consumer listening and social listening, but now it's like review listening. So it's not just like, I want Skylar to leave a review. I want to like look into that review. What went well? What didn't go well? Who do I work with? Research and development? Do I work with the sales side? Do I work, maybe it's a supply chain issue, actually. You have to decipher what the issue is so that you can make a better and better experience, not just a better product.
Yeah. And I would say, like, as part of the data, which I seem to talk a lot about because I guess I'm in it every day, but, we are upgrading our customer service platform. So part of that decision was allowing our data to flow through to that team. So eventually they'll be able to speak to a customer who may be calling because of a purchase that they made. And be able to talk intelligently with that person about what they have purchased, what they purchased before. So, I think that this data is going to be used to, and I said, earlier that omnichannel is part of the personalization part of it and catering to preferences, but making people a little bit smarter with the data so that they could have a conversation about your purchase.
Yeah, customer lifetime value, right? That's what you're asking, right? Anyone who's a good marketer doesn't just want to sell the customer one thing and then talk to them in 10 years when they're ready to buy something else. You have to track the customer and look at the lifetime value of that customer and what other products or services you could offer over the lifetime of the purchase journey. Another question?
Yeah, that's right here. Hope this is on. All right. Thanks everyone for sharing your story. Alyssa, I think you mentioned that in marketing and sales, we have access to so many data points that you don't know what to pick. So personally, I just got into the sales journey earlier on this year, and I was also equally surprised with how much of access of data I had. But sadly, a lot of times we do have access to so many data points, but it doesn't tell the intended story that I want it to tell. So how do you guys pick and choose which data points to pick when nothing tells your story?
Okay. And now it's time for lunch.
Well, I guess, it's a good question. The data that we use is, let me see, I guess we're choosing what we want to be able to communicate, based off of the behavior of the customer. So mostly we're looking at, we're looking at purchase behavior. I mean, and repeat behavior. So I guess I get that's kind of how we've been looking at the data. It hasn't really been trying to connect the dots on like the whole story of the person. It's been more about the value of that person and what they've been buying, and then making sure that they're either continuing to buy from us those products or products that we think they would like. That's kind of how I would
Yeah,
describe
I think paralysis through analysis is what you're talking about,
Yeah.
right? Data is great, but if you're not using it to help, to help drive your strategy, or it's superfluous, then it's not going to be helpful, right? You spend too much time looking at the data instead of acting on it. So, anyone else have a question on or an answer on the data?
I would say like sometimes the data doesn't tell the story you want it to tell. Like you have a hypothesis, it's not proven. Like Tara was saying, like I'm telling you, this is not what people want. Like sometimes that's the answer. Or sometimes you get creative with storytelling and you like find a way to make the story happen. But like sometimes that's the answer. Like the data do not prove out my point. And then you either test again, which you could do, or go pivot in another direction.
And another
fair.
question? Hi.
Hi, my name is Ayana. It's so nice hearing all you guys speak about your careers and how you guys can impact us here at Rutgers. But how do you feel the presence of artificial intelligence in Omnichannel? Do you feel it as threatening or as supportive in the future, especially as us, as like the next generation coming in? Like, do you feel like secure in like our jobs as marketers, or do you feel like a lot of it can be replaced with artificial intelligence?
I've always been artificially intelligent, so I'll let them answer that. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that, okay, I'm going to say the word data again, but I am. Personalization at scale, is what we strive for. I can't speak to each person individually, but if I give information that allows us to be able to get as close as possible to an individual getting a very unique message from us, I still need to set that up. We are still responsible. We talked about customer journeys, so a lot of some of the work that we're going to be doing is, customer journey mapping. We probably haven't done a good job at it, to be honest with you, and maybe some companies are further along than we have been at this point. But if you know what you want to do with the customer and the journey you want them to take, you still need human beings to sort of map that out. And you can let the artificial intelligence help you enable it, but we still need to be giving that information to these tools in order for them to, I consider them enablers. They're not really going to be taking over my job. They're just going to help facilitate it.
I think it's just another tool in your toolbox. You can always look at things as a negative or a positive. I see it as an opportunity to supplement, just like all tech is. There's been tech for decades, right? It's just to me, it's another piece of tech that needs human power, human insight, human prompts. Like for some reason I clicked or liked a lot of tweets on like AI recently, and like I can't get away from AI like posts. So I think it's just another tool in your toolbox to support your journey. It's not going to take your journey. Will it evolve your job? Totally.
Yeah.
But it's the human spirit is a good thing.
Great.
Any other questions? One more.
There we go.
Hi. Thanks.
Hi.
This is a great panel.
Would you say we were the best panel or just a great panel? I just wanted a little data helps. A little data would help us. What do you think? No, you don't have to answer that. They're giving out Oreos later, so they're going to win.
I love hearing the kind of background of how companies seem to have been forced into omnichannel during certain circumstances in the world. And in my very little experience in my career so far, I've noticed that like companies do have to be like forced to change sometimes. And I wonder like how you might communicate the value of omnichannel to a company that hasn't been forced to yet and is more so like in a space where it's B2B, really high investment technology. And most of the time, those purchases are made through, like, the customer journey is longer. The purchases are made in, like, through personal relationships and stuff, like building relationships with the customer.
Yep.
How would you explain the value of omnichannel even, like, earlier in the, like,
Yeah,
awareness
Andrea,
phase?
I'm gonna let Andrea
So
answer.
is your question, how would I explain the value of omnichannel in a B2B scenario or more of a consumer scenario?
B2B, yeah.
So I'm less of a B2B expert. I think probably you're probably the most B2B expert on the panel, but
Moderator.
panel before lunch. But I think it's always about exceeding the competition, right? And yes, brands, companies are forced into things by necessity sometimes, but brands that are forward thinking are going where the puck is going, are thinking about how they leverage the tools they have to do what they want to do next. Like a long time ago, I worked at a fashion brand and we had a lot of consumer data and we used that, and we were a catalog company, right? So it was like 100 years ago. And we used that information to decide where we were going to put stores. And then we built out these hubs of places where we knew our customers were and we marketed to them catalog, emails, and in-store, right? And we didn't care where they bought. We wanted them to buy from us, and we quantified all those steps, right? So I think whether you're B2B or B2C, like companies that want to win are always going to be more forward thinking. So I don't know if that quite answers your question.
I'll just say that question is why I can feed my kids, honestly. Like, I think strategy informs structure. And most of these mid to large companies are, I won't say in the dark ages, but they're struggling to change their structure to enable their people to be successful. Like within the last 4 years with the whole COVID thing, and I talked about supply chain a lot. Pre-COVID, people would allocate towards stores where their inventory would go. After COVID, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to put inventory elsewhere and prioritize it. I remember in 19 for Amazon and Walmart.com, people were like, they're last. They're getting that last. And now it's like, oh, they're getting it first. But they changed what success looked like to them. They changed the structure of who does what when, who's collaborating. And then beautiful things ultimately happen. It takes a while, especially for the big guys. But it's I think structure is holding a lot of them back.
Yeah.